Welcome to Silver Bar Stacker, folks. I hope everybody's doing well and enjoying their day. Now today we've got a fun unboxing by a good friend in the community, Raven Ivy. So I'm super excited to break open into this. We're always picking up some great items at a great price from our great friend Raven. And a lot of these items that we purchase are items that we're just honestly purchasing back. We're just showing some life. See, the purpose of stacking is for you to be able to store that value, and so sometimes you store that value and sometimes you utilize that value. And you know, I utilized that value in the past by selling some of my silver over to Raven, and now she's utilizing some of that silver, using the power of silver, selling that right back to me. So it's really nice to be able to help each other out in that sense, and that's part of the power of stacking silver, is really you can do things on your own terms a little bit. So really appreciate you, Reverend, for the nice and securely packed package. I'm super excited to get into this. There's a lot of stuff here that you've seen on the channel before, and I'm really happy to be purchasing a lot of these items because truthfully we sell a lot as well here. We're always doing live stream auctions on the Whatnot platform. We're frequently selling items on our website, silverbarstacker.com, and so eventually certain items need to be replenished. And so I'm super excited to take a look at some of these items. Some of these items, on the other hand, are new to me. Some of these items are maybe not going to be new to you. Perhaps you've seen these items before, but these will be the first time I'm seeing at least one of these items that comes to mind. So I'm super excited to take a look at this. I always love getting my vintage fix, and this package is not going to disappoint. We also have a small little nuggets of gold in here as well. So I'm excited to show you the gold, including some poured gold. Yes, you heard it right. I have some poured gold in this package here. So it's not just silver. So make sure you watch till the end. Make sure you give me a subscription, a like, a share, comment, please, if you're enjoying the content that you're watching. If not, that's cool too. Hopefully you dislike or like whatever's coming up and you're able to stick through it. Now let's go ahead and see what we got. We got a couple of nicely packed nuggets, and let's see what's in the brown paper. The brown paper is some of those nuggets that we were discussing. Now that is beautiful. And let's go ahead and see what else we got. This is a nice little Ziploc bag filled with something, and I think this is a bar right in here. And let's take a look at what this bar is. It's a chunker, and it's a hefty Engelhard chunker. So this is something I was running a little bit low on. I'm not gonna lie. I'm down to my last few examples of these, and so it's really good to add another one to the stack. This one right here is going to be 125,000 mintage logo back, 10-ounce chunker. And so this one right here is going to have that C prefix. If this had a P prefix with that logo back, it would actually be a lot rarer at just, what is it, 10,000, 15,000, 25,000 mintage, something like that. Be very much lower mintage bar there. I think 25,000 mintage, if I'm not mistaken, for the P prefix bars. If, on the other hand, this had that same C prefix and the back was, instead of having a repeating Engelhard logo, if it was just a plain frosted back, well, folks, then instead of being a 125,000 mintage bar like this is, then it would be a 50,000 mintage bar. So here we have one of the more common bars, the chunker, when it comes to 10-ounce Engelhards, but there's certainly more common bars than this. The E logo bar, which comes to mind, is a 450,000 mintage bar, and the Eagle 10-ounce bar is a 300,000 mintage bar. So you look at those two mintages, and they're quite a bit higher than the 125,000 mintage of this bar, right? This is significantly times more rarer than those common bars. So when you're looking at an Engelhard random design listing, more than likely you wouldn't end up with something like this. More than likely you'd end up with one of those E logo bars, one of the Eagle bars, because those were made in larger quantities, right? So these ones pop up a little bit less. But there are other variants of this exact bar type that pop up even lesser. So nice little example there, a super clean bar, and truthfully I wouldn't be surprised if this is something that I sold to Raven in the past, and now I'm probably buying it back at around the same price. So let's go ahead and see what we got over here. Another brown Ziploc bag, mystery Ziploc bag. No transparency here on this bag, so we're going to be completely surprised at what it is that we see here. All capsulized. That's great. You know, these are going to be coming straight out of the capsule for me. I like to keep my bars raw. I don't know why, but that's just how I like to do things. I know a lot of people like capsules. Not me. So we got a whole nice big hoard of 1 ounce silver bars. And take a look at this. Engelhard logo back. This could be either a portrait style bar or it could be a landscape style bar. If it's a landscape style bar, it would be 500,000 mintage. If it's a portrait style bar, it would be anywhere between 400,000 and 1.15 million mintage. Let's go ahead and see what it looks like on the front. And bam, right here we got a 400,000 mintage E, which is raised in the globe. See, if this was a larger E that was centered in the globe, it would be 1.15 million mintage. But because this is a raised E, this is a 400,000 mintage bar. So we got a nice 400,000 mintage Engelhard there. Again, here, this could be anywhere between 400,000 to 1.15 million mintage, and it could be either a landscape or portrait style bar. Let's go ahead and see what it is. Boom. Here we got an EMC bar. So the EMC bar is also going to be 400,000 mintage, but instead of that E being raised in the globe, it also has an MC under there. So that's going to be a slight variant there. And over here, this is going to be very, very clear to me what this is, because here we've got a slightly different Engelhard back here. You see, you got that A with the triangle, kind of is the only way I can describe this logo. This is going to be a reverse that is very, very unique to your 1 ounce. And on the 10 ounce variation, it looks the same on the back. This is going to be unique to your Eagle bars. And this one right here, we've got an Eagle bar with an FS prefix. And so because that's got an FS prefix with that space there in between the 999 and the plus fine silver, this right here is going to be your 100,000 mintage variation. If this had an FT or an FU prefix and that plus sign was a little bit closer to the 999, well, folks, then we'd be dealing with a 300,000 mintage, 3 times more common. But in fact, this is going to be your 100,000 mintage variation. Now, one interesting thing to note about these bars is that when it comes to the 1 ounce variation, you have a very rare 1 ounce Engelhard Eagle bar that also exists. And that is going to be what they call a proof-like variation. And this one right here does look very proof-like, so some may say, hey, you know, this is going to be that lower mintage proof variation. But in fact, when it comes down to it, there's one striking difference when it comes to the rarer 250 mintage proof-like variation 1 ounce Eagle bar. And while it does share an FS prefix like you do see here on the front of this bar, thing is that on that proof-like variation you have that plus sign closer to the 999. So remember how I was saying on the FU and the FT prefix bars that are 300K mintage, the plus sign is closer to the 999? Well, that is going to be the case for the FT and the FU prefix bars. And on the 100K mintage FS prefix bars, there will be a space in between the 999 and the plus. But then on those proof-like variation 250 mintage bars, 250, that means a tier 1 bar. For that variation, the plus sign will be closer to the 999 and it will have an FS prefix. So yes, this looks very proof-like, but unfortunately it is not the proof-like variation that's 250 mintage. And truthfully, remember how I was talking about you need to take those vintages with a grain of salt? Well, you know, they only have 2 known examples for those proof-like variations, okay? And those serial numbers are FS 73492 to FS 73683. Okay, and the one common thing that I see between that proof Eagle bar is that there's a no space between the 999 and the plus. Okay, now I've seen other examples of this proof-like variation bar with no space between the 999 and the plus with an FS prefix, and it falls outside of a serial number that is past that FS 73492 to FS 73683 serial range. So yes, I can expect that it would be a 250 mintage bar if those are the only two known examples that we're working with, but I have definitely seen examples of this exact bar that we're talking about with the FS prefix with no space in between the 999 and plus. And a lot of those sellers also market that bar as the 250 minted variation. The problem is that falls outside of a range of 250 when you're accounting for the two known examples plus the other examples that I've seen. So here, definitely not the proof-like variation, but I guess what I'm trying to say is that I'm not sure if that proof-like variation is really 250 mintage. I think that mintage might be a little bit higher. So I think those are something that you might be able to find. I might even have one somewhere in my stack if I go through my Eagle bars that I could show you, so you could see the FS prefix with and without the space. And we can take a look at them side by side to see if one looks more proofy than the other. But as you can see here, this certainly looks proof-like, but ultimately it is not your proof-like variation. So sorry to spend so much time on that Eagle bar, but I thought that was something interesting that people might want to know, because when it comes down to collecting Engelhards, there's a lot of variations out there. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. This one we got a blank back, so I'm not really sure what this could be. This could be an Engelhard Industries of Canada bar. This could be a Maple Leaf bar. Certainly it looks to me like it could be one of those Canadian bars, because the Canadian bars tend to have these blank back with no border. With that said, it could also be a blank back Johnson Matthey bar. Who knows? So I guess the only way to find out would be to flip it over. We don't know if this is even an Engelhard, but let's find out soon. And bam, exactly what I had said before, a 1 ounce Maple Leaf Engelhard bar, and this is going to be a Canadian variation. And because we see that 1 troy ounce stamp centered in between the Maple Leaf logo as well as the weight stamp, and because we have no border on the back here, that's going to mean that this is going to be a 5K vintage Maple Leaf bar. Let's go ahead and take a look at this blank pack, and my thinking is that, hey, this might be another maple as well, and let's go ahead and see if it is, and yes it is. But notice on this one how we have that 1 troy ounce stamp pushed down a little bit. It's not quite centered there, and so these are actually two different variants. You might think like, hey, yeah, this is the same bar because it's both blank back, no border, but no, you got to pay close attention to that 1 troy ounce stamp, and you notice how this one is pushed down a little bit towards that weight stamp. Because of that, that makes this a 15,000 vintage bar, 3 times more common technically than this according to the all Engelhard vintages. So you got your 5K vintage bar here, 1 troy ounce centered in between there, and then you got your 1 troy ounce pushed down a little bit, not centered. You can see that this serial number came a little bit after, and really, truthfully, I think there's probably more than 5K of those out there, because you see quite a large range again on that 5K vintage borderless back variation there. So you got 2 cool, interesting examples of Maple Leaf Engelhard bars there, and now we're down to 2 more 1 ouncers here. Both of these Engelhards, both of these could be portrait style or landscape. Let's go ahead and see what they are. Bam. Both of them portrait style, again, like those other 2 bars, and here we've got literally the other 2 variations. So what a nice little package here that we got. So many unique variants. There's not a single bar that was the same type. Every single bar was a different type, and that includes these. We already did the EMC and the E raised in the globe. Now we've got the E centered in the globe and the E centered in the globe again. But the difference here is that you got 1 big E, 1.15 million mintage, and you got 1 short E centered in the globe, 400K mintage. So you got 1.15 million mintage, 400K mintage, 400K mintage, 400K mintage. Really, really nice. One other thing I'd like to check out when we look at this large E 1.15 million mintage silver bars, there's a couple variants again on this. So we flip this over, and bam, we see this is a pretty common variation. A couple things to look out for when you're talking about these 1.15 million mintage large E silver bars. There's a couple of variants again that you got to keep an eye out for. Sometimes what you'll see, most of the time you'll see a reverse that looks like this. Sometimes, however, you'll see a bar where Engelhard is flipped upside down. So you flip this bar like this, And instead of Engelhard being right side up, it'll be upside down across all of these repeating logos. Another thing that you see sometimes is that on the back here, where this Engelhard repeating logo is, if you look up at the corner, and this is something that my friend JK Pioneer mentioned to me, that hey, SPS, keep an eye out for this, because this bar that you're showing us right now is one of those rarer variants where in a small serial range, this little part of the logo will be completely extended up to the edge of the corner, so you'll literally see a completely flat line all the way on this corner partial logo there. So that's another thing to keep an eye out for. Sometimes you see a full line there, sometimes you see Engelhard flipped upside down. Two different variants. This is going to be your most common variant out of the three. Alright, let's go ahead and continue through here. Looks like we got a nice 10-ounce stash over here, which we'll get into, and here we've got some rounds as well. So I'm really excited to get into the rounds, see what kind of unique rounds we might have. Hopefully we have one unique example of each of the rounds, but you know, beggars can't be choosers. This is just what we bought, and this is just what we're going to have to deal with. So here we go. We got some more beautiful bars, and let's take a look at this one. This one's got a little bit of sticky residue here, but I think I'm going to like this one. 1 ounce fine silver, definitely a unique bar that you don't see too often on this channel, at least. And it's something that I'm familiar with, and what I think I know what it's going to be, but it could be something else too, because there's a couple bars, vintage bars, that I'm aware of that share a similar type of reverse to this. But let's go and flip it over, and we'll see that this is a Jackson Precious Metals, a beautiful bar, and I think that the design on this bar is super duper cool. Don't know too much about it, other than I really love the periodic table of elements vibe that this thing has got going on. Beautiful bar here, and I know a lot of people say, hey, dip that. Half the time I don't know what people are talking about, but I think that this bar could probably be pretty easily cleaned, because wow, there's a lot of junk up in that trunk. So let's go ahead and see what else we got here. This one I can tell you straight off the bat, Scotiabank, because you got that repeating Scotiabank logo there, and I'm so happy to be able to pick this one up, because not only is this in the factory seal, but I think I might have given up the one and only example I had of this bar, and so it's really, really nice to be able to get one of these bad boys back into the stack, because you know me, I'm a fiend for the Canadian bank bars, and that is not just the vintage ones. This is an old school one, this is a discontinued one, but it is not a JM, it is not an Engelhard, and I do not care. I like to stack the generic bank bars too. It's a nice stackable bar, high premium, but still stackable. Certainly more stackable than a vintage JM or Engelhard, so I do like to grab some of these variants when I can pick them up, and in this case I was able to pick it up at an insanely good price, so I could not pass up the opportunity. Over here you got another Scotiabank, but we can tell right off the bat this is going to be a different variation, because neither of these sides look like that. So we got another variation, and I'm happy to say so far we've got unique examples right down the board. And this one right here is going to have a similar size side over here, but not exactly the same. Look at that 1 ounce stamp is slightly different there. Outside of that, it's very similar. The fine silver text is a little bit bigger on the right side one. The 999 is a little bit bigger on the right side one. But over here, extremely different, and amazing that both of these are in the original factory seal. So I'm really, really happy about that. And boy, oh boy, oh boy, I was expecting some 1 ounce rounds, and how nice to not have a 1 ounce round in here. Instead, we've got a 5 ounce chunker, and I'm really, really excited about this, because this is going to be one of the most common 5 ounce variations of this round. However, those are the ones I typically sell the most, because the lower mintage variations of the 5 ounce Draper Mint Swiss of America Rolos sell at a hefty premium, and I mean a hefty premium. So when it comes down to it, a lot of times you're better off buying a 10 ounce bar or something like 10 ounce vintage bar, as opposed to buying one of these 5 ounce Rolos when it comes down to the rarer variants. But when it comes down to the common variant, you can sometimes find this at a pretty good deal, and I was able to get this at a pretty good deal as well, and I was happy I was able to, because I've sold quite a few of these beautiful rounds in the past, and that's not surprising, because it's such a cool little round. I know Kansas Kid, he's a big fan of the Rolos, and I'm not sure if he's super into the 5 ounce Rolos, but the 1 ounce Rolos are just as satisfying to stack, I would say, and it's a very stackable item, because yeah, there's a premium attached to it. It is, if you're uncomfortable paying that, $40-$50 price tag for vintage bars and rounds, then it's a tough pill to swallow, and you got to just hope and pray that you can find these things in the LCS. But the thing is, the Draper Mint stuff, I don't think it pops up in the LCSs that frequently. Other stuff, maybe it pops up a little bit more frequently, but this stuff is tough to find, honestly, under that $40-$50 an ounce mark. And so that's kind of just what my expectation is when I'm trying to find it. If I can get it under a certain threshold, then I like to buy them. So I was really, really happy to add this bad boy to the stack. Let's go ahead and see what we got in this big hoard of 10-ounce bars. It's always nice to add some weight to the stack. Although the thing is, when it comes from a reselling perspective, which I think I would say I'm a stacker before I'm a reseller, but I would say when it comes down to what people like to buy, a lot of people don't like to tie up money into 10-ounce bars. A lot of people say that the 10-ounce bar is the sweet spot, but when it comes down to it, I can go ahead and definitively say that 10-ounce bars and larger are going to be far more illiquid when it comes from the perspective as a seller. So these are going to be items that kind of really just take up a lot more space for a lot longer periods of time, because there's a much smaller buyer pool for large 10-ounce and larger bars, right? They're just more expensive, right? Yeah, you might save a little bit of money on the premium. For example, instead of a vintage bar at $40, you might be able to get a 10-ounce vintage bar at $350. Save yourself $5 on the premium. The problem is now you've had to commit $350 of your money rather than just $40 of your money. And therein lies the issue, and therein lies why the liquidity of 1 ounce and smaller bars is so large. There's such a high demand for those types of pieces, and because of that, because there's such a low demand on the flip side, relatively speaking, for the 10 ounce and larger, because of that, you can get them at a killer deal. And I mean a killer deal. And it doesn't matter how special the bar is. Of course, sometimes it does matter. But when we're talking about just common bars, such as this bar right here, a lot of times you can get a great deal on it. So this right here, we've got a Johnson Matthey hammer logo reverse. Now, one thing to look out for before you even flip this bar over is a couple things here. If we're talking about common Johnson Matthey bars, just with normal serial numbers, nothing crazy going on, and they've got logo backs, okay? There's kind of like two main ones that you kind of got to keep in mind. And it has to do with how many full JM hammer logos that you see here. Okay, there's going to be one variation that's got 3 full hammer logos, and there's another one that's got like 6 or 7. I think it's a 6 full hammer logo back. Okay, so we got to count how many full ones do we see, not partial. Like that's a partial one right there. That's a partial one right there. It's cut off a little bit. You see, that one's a partial one over there. This is a full one, so that's one full, partial, 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 full, partial, partial, full, partial, 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 partial. So how many times did I say full? Full, full, full. So there's 3 full JM Hammer logo on the back. So that makes this a, I don't freaking know, 50,000 inches, something lower than a normal logo back bar. It's I think 25 or 50,000 inches. I'm not remembering what the mintage is. Okay, 25,000 mintage or 50,000 mintage, something like that. And if this had 6 full logos on the back, it'd be a 725,000 mintage bar. Way more common. So this actually tends to be one of the more rarer variations. It's not super rare, but based on what I'm looking at here, 3 full logos, yeah, it's a rarer variant here. And on top of that, it's in the original factory seal. Now, when we turn this bad boy over, it's just going to be a normal 6-digit serial number there. Nothing fancy. If this had a logo back, but then it had like an R prefix, that would be another rare variant. The R prefix bars come in both 1 ounce and 10 ounce, but this one right here is just a normal 6-digit logo and a 3 logo back bar here in the original seal. So a very cool bar here. And let's take a look at this one. Is this different or is this the same? It looks exactly the same, and it is exactly the same. So wah wah, there goes our strategy of having a bunch of unique items. Nope, in this case we've got 2 identical 3 logo back Johnson Matthey silver bars, and not even close on the serial number ranges. So I was going to say, hey, maybe we have sequential serials, but no, it's just 2 random 10 ounce bars here of the same type. And let's take a look at this. We've got another JM Hammer logo bar, and what the heck? same exact bar. So we got 3 of the same things, and here again, no sequential serials, but boy, am I glad, because all 3 of these are factory sealed. So we've got nice factory sealed, lower mintage, not the super common 725,000 vintage, 10 ounce vintage Johnson Matthey bars. Now, last and not least, we've got the gold. Saving the gold for last. Let's go ahead and see what kind of gold we've got here. Now, this gold I was very excited about picking up because I don't have a lot of cheap gold. People often ask me on my auction, hey, do you have any gold SPS? I'm like, yes, I do. Problem is, it's like over $200 a gram if you're looking for the 1 gram bars. And if you're looking for something bigger, even like my cheapest, most sensible piece of gold right now to purchase would be like a 2.5 gram gold Credit Suisse carded bar for like $335. So $335 for a 2.5 gram gold bar, you're paying more than $100 per gram. Melt is 90. People want things that melt, so nobody wants to buy even the Credit Suisse 2.5 gram gold bar. That's okay. Problem is then I'm not able to help people out with stuff. So in this case, I was able to pick up some nice fractional gold at a great price, so that way I can, at least for a few lucky people, be able to hook them up with some gold here. So here we've got the iconic Volcambi Swiss. We used to have many of these in stock. We had multiple full combi bar sheets. These come in sheets of 50 or 100 1 gram gold bars. They make them in silver, platinum, and palladium as well. We've had all of those in stock in the past, and we've kind of gotten rid of the generic stuff over the past, but it's nice to be able to get a nice loose generic gram here in stock again for one lucky person on the auctions. Over here we've got a couple quarter gram gold here, and I think these are going to be, I forget, Monarch Precious Metals, but it says 1/4 ounce gold, and yes, it's going to be a Monarch Precious Metal. So we've got 2 1/4 ounce gold rounds here, which is really great. And by 1/4 ounce I mean 1/4 gram. So a nice 1/4 gram gold here, beautiful. And I think these will be very liquid, right? So when we were talking about liquidity and the illiquidity of 10 ounce silver bars, well, the liquidity for 1/4 gram gold, 1/2 gram gold, 1 gram gold, 10th ounce gold, and that's what we got for this last one, by the way, 10th ounce gold, is high. You know, I expect that this piece of poured 10th ounce gold, well, if I was just trying to sell this at melt value, I'm sure that I'd be able to sell this very quickly. But I'm somebody who also watches auctions. I try to keep a close eye on the market, and while I did not know what this beautiful piece of poured 10th ounce gold was, this is actually a limited edition Helibug mint. So this is modern, but it is very low mintage. And actually, what I did not realize is this is a highly sought after piece. So I saw one of these poured gold 10th ounce pieces selling, and it comfortably sold for well over $300. And I myself did not actually have to buy this for well over $300, thankfully. I was hooked up on this, but in reality, what I did not know is that these things sell at a hefty premium. I can see why. It's a very beautiful piece of poured gold here, and that too fractional, so you can't beat that. And I think this is definitely the star of the show. I really appreciate you, Raven, for being able to hook this one up, and I don't think that this one that I'm easily gonna let go, because I really like this piece, honestly. So appreciate you super duper much for tuning in, watching the show, watching the unboxing. A special shout out to Raven Ivy for hooking it up, and to everybody else who watched the unboxing, appreciate you for tuning in. Hope you have a good rest of the day. Cheers.
Oh, and if you haven't had a chance to yet, be sure to check out our social media landing page at solo.to/silverbarstacker. There you can find our direct website link, which is silverbarstacker.com, as well as our links to our other social media channels, such as this very YouTube channel, our Facebook page, our Instagram page, our TikTok page, our Twitter page, and we also have the link to our Whatnot page, which is where we actually run our live auctions and actually also have all of these same SBS drops that we hold. We run those same drops on our Whatnot store, and we also have live auctions happening literally all the time. So the way that you can be notified about those auctions is to be following us there on whatnot.com/user /silverbarstacker. And we hope to see you there, folks. Thank you, and have a great day.